Welcome back to Wow Drama Stories. So let's get right to it. The timestamps are in the description box. Story 1. Opie writes, Me, 28, and my sister, 32, have never really gotten along that well. My parents were divorced, and so we never really spent much time together during our childhood. Once we got in our early 20s, though, that changed, and we actually got pretty close. Both of us were in serious relationships, and we would always talk about our dream weddings. Fast forward a few years, and my sister was finally getting married to her high school sweetheart. I've never seen her so happy, and I knew this was going to be one of her most cherished moments in life. That was until my dumb ass of an ex-boyfriend proposed to me at my sister's wedding. Needless to say, I had absolutely no idea. I rejected his proposal and ended up leaving him after a few weeks of him showing no signs of him being sorry at all. My sister was rightfully upset with the both of us because in her eyes we had just took away her spotlight on a day she's been dreaming of for years. I felt so bad that I ended up giving her around half of what she paid for the wedding. A little much, I know, but when you have your whole family against you, you'll do anything for things to go back to normal. It took a couple of months, but our bond came back and I ended up meeting my now fiancé. Our wedding is in a couple of weeks, and my sister has been making jokes about announcing her pregnancy at my wedding. At first the jokes were funny, and I thought they had no real threat to them, but after today it was pretty clear she was not actually joking. My mom called me, telling me that my sister said she was going to announce that she was pregnant during the speech as part of our wedding to get back at me for what, quote, I, unquote, did during hers. I texted my sister saying that it was completely unfair to not just me, but especially to my fiancé, and neither of us were to blame for what X did. She won't hear me out, and I told her if she won't drop it, then she won't be allowed at my wedding. I guess she's been crying to all our brothers, saying I'm a witch and a crappy sister for not only ruining her wedding, but for not letting her get a tiny bit of revenge. I get it. It must be hard to have that happen at your wedding, but how should it be my fault? I didn't tell him to do that, and my now fiancé definitely didn't either. My dad and brothers said I was being petty and that it was only fair I let her do that, considering what happened at hers. My fiancé is on my side though, and think it best I don't let her come, or at least not come to the reception. I know it might seem a bit unfair for me to not let her get back at me, but I didn't pay the 15k pity money just for her to try to ruin my wedding years later. We are both adults, and at this point I think I could be overdramatic. A pregnancy announcement and a proposal are two very different things, but I won't lie and say it wouldn't hurt my feelings if she did do that to me. We do have an update from Opie coming up in a bit. Well, it certainly wasn't Opie's fault that her ex-boyfriend proposed at her sister's wedding, and it sounds like Opie was upset about it from the start. So it's not as though she was jumping with joy at the wedding. I do understand why her sister was upset about it, but Opie clearly did everything she could to make it up to her sister, including drop the boyfriend. Honestly, with so many stories like this, people proposing at other people's weddings, maybe there should be messages sent out to everybody that's going to attend, making it clear to them that proposals and pregnancy announcements, etc. are inappropriate at somebody else's wedding, and if you do it, you're going to get kicked out. It seems so obvious, people should know this, but apparently a lot of people don't. Let's get some comments and then we're going to get Opie's update. Not the a-hole. You can ask her when she plans to pay you the 50% of your wedding costs if she decides to announce her pregnancy. If she wants tit for tat, guess she intends to pay for half of your wedding. And another comment, 100%. Honestly, Opie, even if she apologizes or, quote, promises, unquote, she won't do it, I still wouldn't let her come at this point. Because she sounds super snaky and would 100% just do it anyway. And you just know if you got upset, your whole family would be on her side because she finally, quote, got her revenge, unquote. She's burnt her invite now. Ban her. And if anyone says they won't come if you don't let her go, just reply, quote, okay, thanks for letting me know. That's one less dish we have to pay out for, unquote. And a final comment before we get Opie's update. Not the a-hole. You paid for half of her wedding because of what your ex did. It wasn't your fault, and she is being ridiculous. Is she prepared to give you back the money you gave her? What your ex did was horrible, but it's been years, and she needs to get over it. You paid for half of her wedding because of your ex's behavior, and she still hasn't moved on. You need to ask her for that money back. Here's the update. So today was my wedding, and I'm glad to announce that it went amazing. I don't have much drama to update you on since I've just been blocking people in my family who've been mean to me about the situation. My husband and I ended up uninviting my sister, my father, and older brother. We felt it was more important to us to have a fun and non-stressful wedding rather than try to please my sister and do some sort of, quote, compromise, unquote. I definitely got a ton of crap for it at first, since I couldn't exactly tell everyone in my family why they were uninvited. I didn't want to ruin her moment again, lol. But when my sister announced her pregnancy a couple of days ago, I could finally tell them my side, and pretty much everyone agreed with my decision. Sorry I don't have a super interesting update to give you all, but thanks to everyone who gave me advice and made me realize I in fact was not an a-hole and had every right to be upset. Have a great day. Well, OP, I'm really glad you had an amazing wedding, but I hope at some point you'll be able to mend all these broken relationships in your family. Story 2. OP writes, I'll admit I'm overly emotional, and everyone involved in this is biased one way or another, so outsider thoughts would be nice. I'm 28 and my sister is 24. I lost my love, Jack, early last year. He proposed to me a few days before his death at a restaurant. I told him I needed some time to think. He agreed and we decided to meet the following week at the same restaurant so I could tell him my decision. That day never came. I was going to say yes. I know this might sound weird to people. Why would I have to think about saying yes/no, etc.? It wasn't about my love for Jack or vice versa. I grew up in a volatile household, watching my parents have zero love or respect for one another, but refused to get a divorce. It tainted my view on marriage, but I felt everything could change with Jack. I regret not saying yes right then. At least we would have had a few days engaged. I do see a grief therapist and slowly healing, but the pain is still there. My sister Victoria got engaged, and they had the engagement party last Sunday. It was at the place Jack proposed to me at. I told her I can't attend and reason why. She was hurt and said I was skipping such a big event. Our parents said people would ask why I wasn't there and I can suck it up for a few hours. I got tired of their nagging, so decided to go. I was going okay and I mainly kept to myself, but later I started crying. Not full on howling or anything, but my eyes were red and people could tell I was crying. Victoria got really pissed, messaging me later that I made a scene in front of everyone. I told her I didn't want to come in the first place. She said that sometimes you need to do things you don't want to do for the sake of supporting family. My mom got involved, said I embarrassed them and acting like a child, crying over a restaurant. Was I the a-hole? I guess I could have just sucked it up. Opie also gave some additional information in one of her comments in which she said that they live in a major city with lots of restaurants. Okay, I've got to say, Opie, the thing that stands out for me about this is the part about your parents saying, what would people say if you're not there? And then to say afterwards that you embarrass them. That kind of thing gets on my nerve, this concern about other people, what other people will think, what other people will say, rather than being concerned about you and your feelings. So I don't think you were the a-hole, OP, and your sister saying that sometimes you need to do things you don't want to do for the sake of the family. Well, she could have done the same and chosen a different restaurant. Let's get some comments with replies from OP. Not the a-hole. Your sister is awful. To have her engagement reception a year later at the place where he proposed and you were never able to say yes before his death. And on top of that, she insists that you come, showing she has no compassion. And your mother siding with her is no better. I'm sorry about your loss. Edit. And the, quote, what will people think, unquote, that seems more important than your well-being and is a big no-no as well. OP replies, this hurts me the most, that he'll never know I wanted to say yes and how much I wanted to be his wife. My parents were always really careful about their status and what others say about them. They weren't very fond of Jack either. My dad thinks I'm exaggerating, and if I were in a proper relationship, I would have said yes right away, and Jack wouldn't have taken I need to think for an answer. Someone else wants to know, how did he pass? Did your sister choose this place knowing your history there? How long ago was his death? OP replies, Jack passed in an accident about a year and a half ago. I told my family where he proposed in passing, but I doubt they remembered the name. I did tell Victoria this restaurant is that one. She just said that she forgot. And many couples get engaged/married there. It's a popular venue. Let's get a final comment. Not the a-hole. Your sister could have picked any other restaurant, or she could have at least been understanding and let you not go like you planned. Instead, she and your parents bullied you into going and got mad at you for having feelings just a year after the love of your life died. Everyone are a-holes but you. On to story number 3. OP writes, my sister is getting married next spring. Both her and her fiancé have full-time, great-paying jobs. He works as an engineer and she is a surgical nurse. My stepmom passed away recently and has sent my dad into a downward spiral, causing him to back out of paying for my sister's wedding. My sister has asked me, her maid of honor, if I can help pay half for things like her honeymoon, their venue, their cake, and gifts for both bridesmaids and groomsmen. I do not make as much money as they both do, not even as much as one of them does. But I said yes because she was very upset. I would not have said yes had I known her fiancé was still expecting out-of-town trips for his birthday and for their, quote, annual summer vacation, unquote, to be somewhere extravagant and out of the country. I explained to her that I thought it wasn't fair that he expected these expensive trips when she can barely afford her wedding, and that I, as her sister, is footing the bill. She was extremely mad that I said that, and I was made to be the bad person, because how could I, quote, make him miss out on his birthday, unquote. Am I the a-hole? OP, you're not the a-hole, and isn't it funny how people will come to you and ask you for money for something very specific, and then you give it to them, but next thing you know, they're spending money left, right, and center on luxury items, and having the audacity to flash it around for everybody to see. So absolutely, OP, you are not the a-hole. But if I were your sister and her fiancé, I would be so embarrassed carrying on like this when you are helping to pay a significant part of the bill for their wedding. Come on. Okay, let's get some comments on this. You need to back out of this agreement as fast as possible. Your sister needs to have the wedding she can afford, not the one you co-pay for. This is an outrageous expectation. If your sister can afford out-of-country trips, they can afford their own wedding. And someone else says, not the a-hole. Why the heck should you pay for anything short of what's normal for the maid of honor? Your sister sounds a tad spoiled. Where's his family in all of this? If your dad is bailing, then the couple needs to pay. It's that simple. Opie replies, his mom is not able to pay for a wedding of this size. It's unrealistic for both sides of the family at this time, but they can't see that. Let's get 2 more comments. Not the a-hole. If your father backed out of paying for the wedding, why doesn't your sister scale back to a wedding her and her fiancé can afford to pay for? It doesn't make sense for your sister to ask you to pay while the fiancé is spending big bucks on trips not related to the wedding. Is he pitching in money towards the wedding? Sounds like they need to change plans to have the wedding they can afford / or are willing to pay for. Opie replies, he has rented his suit and has paid for about $300 of the wedding. For the alcohol / DJ, the wedding is probably around $15,000 right now. The venue itself is $10,000. And a final comment, not the a-hole. If they can't afford it, then they have a different kind of wedding. They should be ashamed to even ask you. Say no and feel no guilt. I certainly hope Opie gets herself out of that one. Her sister and the sister's fiancé are so entitled it's infuriating, so Opie, best of luck to you. Leave your comments down below, and if you like this, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and hit the notification bell. Until next time, wishing you a drama-free life.